I wore my deceased mother's handmade dress to a wedding and my mother-in-law accidentally spilled wine on it. Just today I discovered she kept the stained fabric as a trophy. When David proposed 3 years ago, I warned him about his mother. She hates me, I insisted. He would smile that patient smile. Mom's just protective. She'll warm up to you eventually. She never did. Margaret Walsh came from old money and old ideas about who her only son should marry. A public school teacher from a single-parent household was decidedly not on that list. Every interaction was laced with subtle digs about my background, my career choice, my simple taste. I tolerated it all except for one unforgivable moment. The day she deliberately destroyed the last piece of my mother I had left. Mom died of cancer when I was 19. She was a talented seamstress who created the most beautiful dresses I'd ever seen, despite never having formal training. Before she passed, she made one final piece, an elegant emerald green silk dress with intricate hand-embroidered flowers along the hem. "For when you need me there with you," she'd whispered. I saved that dress for special occasions. I wore it when I graduated college, when I got my first teaching job, and when David proposed. Each time I felt her with me. Last summer, we attended the wedding of David's cousin at a vineyard. I wore Mom's dress. When Margaret saw me, her face tightened in that familiar way. "Isn't that the same dress you've worn to 3 events now?" she asked loudly enough for nearby guests to hear. "Some people might consider that economical," I smiled. It was the last thing my mother made before she died. Something flashed in her eyes, not sympathy but calculation. During the reception, it happened. Margaret tripped while holding a full glass of red wine. Chapel, despite dozens of other guests standing nearby. The entire contents landed directly on my dress. The crimson liquid bloomed across the green silk as I gasped. "Oh my, how clumsy of me," she exclaimed with theatrical distress. "Let's get you to the bathroom. I am sure it will come out in the bathroom." She scrubbed at the fabric aggressively with club soda and rough paper towels, making it worse. "Such a shame," she sighed, not looking sorry at all. "Perhaps it's a sign you should invest in some new things," I cried that night, while David reassured me we could try professional cleaning. 3 different specialists later, we admitted defeat. The delicate vintage silk was permanently damaged. I carefully folded what remained of Mom's creation into a keepsake box. Yesterday changed everything. David and I were helping Margaret prepare for her move to a smaller house. While packing her craft room, I opened a scrapbook labeled Family Victories. There, pressed between wax paper like a preserved flower, was a swatch of emerald green silk with a wine stain beneath it, in Margaret's elegant script. "Problem solved, April 2023. My hands shook as I took a photo. I found 3 more fabric swatches in the book, all from outfits of mine that had suffered accidents over the years. When David saw the evidence, something hardened in his eyes. Without a word, he took the book and walked downstairs to where his mother was organizing china. I followed, heart pounding, and watched from the doorway as he silently placed the open scrapbook in front of her. "David, you shouldn't go through my personal." Her voice died when she saw what page was open. "Why?" he asked quietly. Margaret's chin lifted defiantly. "She was never going to be good enough for you." That dress was her claiming some kind of heritage, as if her seamstress mother was something to celebrate. The silence that followed felt endless. "We're leaving," David finally said. "I'll send movers for our boxes. And Mom, we won't be at Christmas this year or any year until you understand what you've done in the car." He reached for my hand. "I am so sorry I didn't believe you. This morning, a package arrived from an elderly woman in my mother's old neighborhood. Your mother taught me to sew." The note read, "I found these in my attic, her original patterns, including the green dress. She made copies of everything just in case. Sometimes we lose precious things. Sometimes we find new ways to keep them alive. And sometimes the people who try to erase our past end up clarifying our future." Margaret's victory book is now evidence in family therapy, David's requirement before she's allowed back in our lives. And I am learning to sew pattern by pattern, stitch by careful stitch.